Hey, it's that time of the month again. Phrasing. So we're back again with the Springtime Spree banner, which will be running from the 31st of January to the 14th of February. The first unit is Lin You, Lin You? It depends on the language, I guess. 5-star Wind X with attack stats, which is our first 5-star X with attack designation. Our other attack X's are Vanessa, Rex, and Eric. Her first skill is Typhoon Fist. It's slash followed by a modest AoE which hits 6 times, and it also stuns. Second skill is Heaven's Breath. This buffs Lin Yu's attack speed by 20% for 10 seconds, as well as buffing her first skill, causing it to do more hits, up to 9 hits this time, and it also heals you for a small amount when you activate it. The S2 that is, not the S1. Okay, in terms of abilities, she has plus 10% crit rate at HP 70% or above, and of course she gets 100% resist to Bog. Well, I say of course, the other option is Freeze, but you know, Bog for the event. And her third ability is Skill Haste plus 8%, which I suppose that synergizes with her second skill and the attack speed buff as well, which also, since you're attacking faster, causes your skills to charge faster. So the Bog Resist gives you sort of access to High Mercury. Rest in peace people that built Ransel already, I suppose. And in terms of her stats, yeah, 5-star X with attack designation, so she's got sort of the same spread of stats that Vanessa, Rex, and Eric have, but since she's a natural 5-star, then yeah, that slight little boost. In terms of weapons available to Lin You, she's got the 5-star tier 3 X, which gives you 3 hits of 376% or 418%, which is a pretty meaty hit, or the 4-star tier 3 weapon gives you a 10-second defense buff for 20 to 25%. Not terribly useful, but maybe Cygames will actually make this sort of defense skill useful at some point. Unfortunately, with the sort of current layout where you're really just incentivized to do as much damage as quickly as possible, sort of defense skills and longer term buff skills, depending on the buff percentages, they fall to the wayside a little bit. Now, Long, our new 5-star Wind Dragon, has a 5 attack chain, and his bonus is rather strange again. It's a 45% strength and 55% boost to crit damage. This has been mathed out a bit on the subreddit, link should be in the description below if I'm good at this and manage to remember to put it in the description. You need at least 22% crit chance to break even with the 60% strength bonus, I believe, that Zephyr gives you at maximum unbind. So 22% crit chance, you know, you have to build quite deliberately in order to get that. Now obviously Lin You with her crit rate plus 10% passive, as well as sort of the new Wyrmprints that we'll be looking at, sort of enable that somewhat, but you know, you need everything to work out for you in terms of your polls in order to get that. Now Long's skill, Howling Burst. It's a laser beam that hits 6 times. It's a Kamehameha basically, you know, pull if you like Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball whatever they've reached now. Is it Dragon Ball Super? I don't even know. Anyway, stat-wise, he's got the same stats as Zephyr, except minus 1 HP. Well, sure, Attack Dragon, great. But somehow, even with 1 less hit point, he still has the same might designation as Zephyr. So, you know, they're probably generating these with some algorithm, but sometimes they don't work out the same way for some reason. Anyway, 4-star Wind Sword. Our first Wind Sword unit, 4-star with attack designation, Ku Hai. Yeah. So his first skill is, at max level, deals 4 sword slashes for 188%. That's not too bad. Second skill, it's a 10-second buff. You get plus 10% crit if the skill is at level 2, and it also modified your force strike to be more akin to that of a lance. Now, This new 4-strike deals 3 hits of 68 to 83% damage, depending on sort of the level of this skill 2 and whether or not you've leveled up your 4-strike. Overall, it also does more overdrive bar damage if all 3 hits land. The standard sword 4-strike has a sort of 8 times multiplier to bar damage, overdrive bar damage, if that hit lands, whereas the modified 4-strike that Kuhai gets are 3 hits of 3.7 times multiplier to overdrive bar damage. So overall that's what, 11.1? Yeah. So obviously this seems better on paper, but you also have to consider that this new 4-strike also takes a little bit longer to occur, because it's 3 hits and those 3 hits are delayed over a small period of time. You'd have to figure out whether or not you actually break overdrive faster with a standard 4-strike, or whether or not you break, well, I don't know, because it does bonus damage as well, right? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. You'd have to math it out to figure out whether or not Kuhai actually breaks overdrive faster than normal swords. But, you know, wind swords, first of his kind. Now, in terms of the weapons available to Kuhai, you've got your 5-star tier 3 weapon, which is a 10-second defense buff. Okay, yeah, 25 to 30% defense up for 10 seconds. Not terribly useful for the content we've got at the moment, but who knows, maybe we'll have some more long-term, like longer labyrinth-style maps to do at some point. That's not time attack based. Yeah. And the 4-star tier 3 weapon, my goodness. Yep, it's 15 to 18% recovery potency heal, and then 15 seconds of regen at 12 to 15%. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. However, in terms of passive abilities, Kuhai gets critical damage up, as well as additional critical damage when his HP is 70% or above. Kuhai gets the bog resist going up to 100% as is standard for 4-star units. I suppose this does synergize somewhat with the 4-star tier 3 weapon for wind swords with the recovery and regen, self-regen, yeah. It'll help you stay above 70% hit points. And onwards to the 3-star light one, Shao Lei. She's designated as a support unit, but her skills are not too shabby. In terms of skill number 1, she's got an explosion, single hit, targeted, and at max level that deals 895%. Not too shabby, but you know, consider that 3-star units have moderately lower strength inherently. Now, her second skill is rather interesting and could be, you know, it could redeem her. Her second skill buffs crit, the chance and damage increase by 5% and 30% respectively at level 1, and 8% and 40% at level 2. That's a team-wide buff, so that could end up being, you know, a very good overall contribution to the team-wide DPS, and might enable you to completely blast through Shadow Imperial Onslaught, who knows. Xiao Lei also gets 75% poison resist at max level, so that makes her a candidate for sort of autoing Shadow Imperial Onslaught, possibly. Now, in terms of the weapons that Xiao Lei has available to her, there's the 5-star tier 3, which deals 4 hits of 244 or 271% damage, which is fairly decent. And the 4-star tier 3 weapon buffs the user's defense by 25 or 30%. So again, that's not terribly useful, but hey, maybe she needs that sort of survivability in order to auto Shadow Imperial Onslaught. Now, let's look at the Wyrmprints introduced with this new banner. One of the new 5-star Wyrmprints is Warrior Maiden. This increases the recovery potency available to the user by 10%, as well as Slayer's strength plus 4%, which increases your strength by 4% up to 5 times. This Wyrmprint synergizes with Lin You, since the recovery potency increases the amount that she heals with her second skill, and would also synergize with any other units that sort of self-heal. So that's all of the Halloween units, Edward, Elisan, Althemia, and also Ieyasu with a bit of self-healing as well. Maybe healers would appreciate this in sort of longer term combat situations where there's more units, so maybe like Imperial Onslaught again. The second 5-star print introduced with this banner is Kungfu Masters. This Wyrmprint gives axe units critical rate plus 12% at maximum unbind, as well as skill damage plus 15%. The skill damage plus 15% is unconditional, but you wouldn't want to use this print on a non-axe unit anyway, because then otherwise there's other prints that do a better job, that don't even need to be 5 stars for that. Again, this print synergizes with Lin You. And this print also enables Long Long and Lin You as a combination. Axes in general will really like this print, but if you're trying to use Lin You with Long Long, this print will be the one, or at least it'll help you push over that 22% boundary in order for Lin You and Long Long to be better than Lin You and Zephyr. Now, one of the new 4-star prints is Lunar Festivities. Increases the force strike damage by 20 or 30% at maximum unbind, and also increases the skill gauge fill rate by 6 or 8% when the user's force strikes connect. This is a new ability that we haven't seen on Wyrmprints before, and I'm interested to see how this is going to work out. This could work out very well with Lin You again, because she gets that 20% increase to attack speed. I'm interested to see whether or not the attack speed buff also influences how quickly your force strikes charge, but in the end, yeah, sure, lots and lots of skill charge, lots of stuns up to a certain point. And of course, the 3-star print introduced with this banner. Blossoms Ablaze is a print that gives conditionally wind units increased break damage by 15 or 20%. So what does this mean? This means you're gonna deal more damage to broken units by 15 or 20%, but only if you equip this print on a wind unit. This print is fairly conditional. I think this is sort of equivalent to like a 5 to 10% increase in damage overall, but you know, there's other prints for that again. I can't see this print being terribly useful, but you know how Cygames, they need to come out with new stuff, and this is it, essentially. And now for some stuff that I haven't discussed in a video before, mainly because this is my second video in terms of banner analyses, and you know, the last banner wasn't during a raid event. So the free unit that we get with this banner is Fang. He's a wind dagger that gets up to 75% bog res. That's pretty typical for the welfare unit, as they're called. I'd say he's more akin to a wind Celiera, but he's also our first 4-star wind dagger. Now, obviously being a welfare unit, he's not quite as good as an actual 4-star gacha dagger, but you know, he's still better than Francesca, mostly. His co-ability would give up to 7% increased crit chance, as opposed to Francesca's 5%, so he could help enable Lin You and Long Long as a combo. Now, in terms of his skills, his first skill is Gale Slice, which deals some number of hits of wind damage to enemies directly ahead. I haven't actually played Fang to test him yet, because I'm trying to get this video out as soon as possible, who'd have thought. And his second skill is Crackling Pyro Blossom. This increases the user's strength by 20% 10 seconds at level 1, and 25% at level 2, and while that skill is active, Gale Slice, his first skill, also inflicts stun. This is why I said that he's somewhat like Celiera in terms of there's 2 skill to buffing the first skill. And now we come to the weapons available for wind daggers. The 5-star tier 3 wind daggers skill has 6 hits of 148 to 164%, which is, you know, about 1000 to 1100% damage. And the 4-star tier 3 weapon is a 72 to 90% recovery potency heal. While Fang himself doesn't have any sort of HP 70% passive, you might have a Wyrmprint equipped that does require a high number of hit points. But overall, you know, leave the healing to the healers, get the 5-star tier 3 weapon if you want to make Fang a big boy, otherwise, you know, 5-star tier 2 is typically good enough. And now for the free dragon introduced with the raid event. Peng Lai, the Earthen Emancipator, is a water dragon that provides a 30% boost to health at maximum unbind. His skill is a single hit laser beam style that deals 662% water damage to units ahead, and it inflicts bog for 8 seconds. All in all, Peng Lai is essentially a more powerful Mercury that inflicts Bog with the skill, so go for it if your healers need a HP dragon, and even if they don't need a HP dragon, you should probably try and get a maximum unbound Peng Lai anyway to, you know, boost up your collection. And now for the free Wyrmprint that comes along with the raid. It's Dragon Dance, which provides up to 50% Bog resist. If Cygames does decide to implement dual Wyrmprint equipping, then potentially this could help enable some units that already have a bit of Bog resist to be used in High Mercury once that's available. But since High Mercury isn't actually a thing at the moment, then this discussion isn't really relevant. And now for the part of the video where I share my opinion on whether or not you should pull. Have you noticed when this banner ends? It's Valentine's, so most likely we're going to be seeing some limited units added for a Valentine's banner. Considering that these units are not limited, you should only really be pulling for this banner if you need wind units desperately to participate in the raid. Otherwise, I would stick to saving your resources for the limited Valentine's banner. Personally, I'm just going to be using my daily deals and nothing else really. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you luck in your upcoming pulls.